Sports Fanatics United. I'm Eric Good, and with me as always, Max Briggs. Max, how was your Valentine's Day?
It was just wonderful. How was yours?
It was nice. I had to celebrate two birthdays on that day, so but it was still a nice day.
Yeah, did you do
Uh,
anything good for your fiance?
oh yeah, I got her some flowers and shocked her. She loves purple, so I bought her some purple flowers and whatnot. And I pretended like I wasn't going to be able to come home for lunch like I usually do from work.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she sat there and she got the flowers, she was like, "You?" She's like, "Oh my goodness!" And she video called me. She was like, "You," and I was like, "What's the wrong? Is something wrong?" But it was a great day. I really enjoyed mine. And now joining us also as advertised is our guest, Miss Barbara Tillman. Barbara, it's great.
Hello.
I'm glad we finally were able to get you on the show.
I know. I'm busy, but not. I'm just am randomly busy, so.
So, before we get started, though, since this is your first time on the episode, like always when we do our new guest, give us a rundown of your favorite teams.
Well, baseball is number one in my heart, so Cubs all the way. Pretty much all my teams are Chicago. My dad's from Chicago, well, right outside Chicago, so I just stayed true to his fandom. So Bulls, kind of. This year I'm a Lakers fan because I am obsessed with Anthony Davis. So that's my team for this year. And then Bears, even though they're
Oh no, they
heartbreaking.
suck again.
I know. But then college, I live in Tucson, so University of Arizona Wildcats. But I just started school at Grand Canyon University, so I guess technically now I'm a fan of their team, the Antelopes, out in the WAC.
Oh, the
So,
infamous Antelopes.
yes.
Powerhouse they are.
I'm not very big into soccer, but I guess I root for Chelsea. Um, I like UFC, but I don't really have a favorite. I like boxing, same, but don't really have a favorite. So that's it.
A
Those are
woman
the
of
those are the big
a
ones.
woman of many tastes.
Yes.
And thankfully, none of them are bad like Richard at those Cleveland teams.
Yeah. We'll let it pass because him
All
and I
right.
are friends now.
Oh yeah, that's right. As long as he give us, we could be friends once again too. Once he gives my now $110,000.
Yeah, you get money, I get a signed Trevor Bauer jersey.
It's
Yeah,
just about the
it's
same.
worth its weight in gold. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, today on this episode, we're going to dive into the AL West, where we have the Mariners, the Rangers, the Athletics, the Angels, and the Houston Astros.
Boo.
Boo.
But we'll get to them later on. But let's start off in the West with the Seattle Mariners. They started off last year like a firecracker, basically, and then it just rained on it rained on them, and it rained on them hard. Because what did they start like
Was it
20
like
and they got to 20 wins before they got to 10 losses, and then
Oh
that was it.
yeah. Mariners had big energy the first 20 games of the season.
And then that was it. I think they finished what 68 and 94, and they're looking at possibly what was it trading Mitch Haniger this offseason, and then they're looking at just having a lot of young guys play this year because I guess they realized last year that hey, what we got ain't it. So
And,
oh, go ahead.
and they're projected to stay the same, so even their off-season changes aren't going to do anything good for them.
Exactly. So I guess Barbara, I want to start with you. What's your outlook on the 2020 Seattle Mariners?
I like Kyle Seager. That's about it. I mean, everyone else is just. I do like Walker. He played for Arizona, so I watched him a little bit just from watching Diamondback games here. But again, none of these players like scream out to me like, "Hey, we're good." D. Gordon, I guess he's just a well-known name, but
they've got Haniger. Haniger's decent.
Yeah, but he's not even on their projected lineup.
Well, they've only got two guys as a lock in the outfield, right? So with Malik Smith and Kyle Lewis, but if Haniger's not locked in as one of their starting outfielders, I think they're failing pretty hardcore.
I mean, right now they have D. Gordon as the projected, and I think it's probably just because he has the highest batting average.
Would you say that this year's Mariners look like they're going to try to tank as well, that they're in the AL West?
Take last place.
Because, like y'all say, there's with Haniger not being projected to be a starter, it's almost screaming that they had plans by this, and that they plan to have him gone by now, but they can't. They're looking for probably an exorbitant amount in return for him. That teams are saying, "Look, y'all not even looking to play him to start the year. Why do you think he's worth this much if you're not going to play him to start the season?"
Yeah,
and it's just Seattle's one of those teams that just they puzzle you. They're almost like the Mets of the American League, but at least at times it seemed like the Mets at least try, especially the last couple of years. Because like I said last year, Seattle comes out the gate and it looks like, well, we've got another contender, and then May happened, and well, we saw what all happened after that. They looked like they were trying to get to 100 losses,
and that's where the season's won and lost is in May, essentially.
Yeah. Well, what you do in May basically determines whether or not you're gonna have a successful season or not. So, it's a lot of crap out there, and it's I don't know.
Yeah.
But Max, go ahead.
The only pickup that I truly love for the Mariners this season was C.J. Edwards from the Cubs. Well, we let him go in the middle of last year, and then he went to Padres. But he's always going to be special to me, even though I know Ricky always dogs on him and hates on him. But, I mean, C.J. got our last out for our World Series title, so he's always going to be a hero in Chicago. I mean, Greg is friends with him on PlayStation, and they play Fortnite together sometimes. So I'm like, we're basically best friends, but that's my favorite pickup for the Mariners this year.
I love that story.
I mean, it's definitely a Homer story, but I wish him the best, even though I'll miss him. He will be the best for them. But other than that, yeah, they're not going to do much this season for me.
Oh, Max, you got anything else you want to add on the Mariners?
Honestly, going back to the D. Gordon comment, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade him. Because he's kind of a man without a position right now. And he could be like the utility guy because he can play second and short and go to the outfield. Honestly, like I was saying with Mitch Haniger, I think he should be one of the starting outfielders. You know, D. Gordon's kind of the odd man out. He's on in the last year of his deal. He's kind of owed quite a bit of money anyways. So it could be like one of those things where a team starts competing and they need a good utility guy with speed. I mean, why wouldn't somebody try to pick up D. Gordon for a playoff run? They've got an interesting first baseman with White. He seems like he could be the answer at that position for quite some time to come. He was a first-round pick in 2017. It sounds like he got, a 6-year deal this offseason with the Mariners, so he's locked down for quite some time.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a cluster at first base with Vogelbach and Wisdom and Nola. Vogelbach's definitely going to be on the team as the DH, more than likely. It'd just be nice to see what Evan White can do. I think he could definitely be the future of that team. Other than that, nobody really jumps out at me. I mean, Malik Smith is a decent outfielder. Mitch Haniger's, I really like him a lot, so it's kind of a homer thing with me on him. And then their pitching staff doesn't really do it for me. Like, there's nobody there that really just makes me want to go like, yeah, that's a solid 5-man rotation right there. Hell, they've got Wei Yin Chin as one of their possibilities to either fill in or make the rotation as like the 5th starter, which is bad. If you have Wei Yin Chin as a possibility to make your team out of spring training, that means you're doing something very wrong. Because he's been like one of the worst pitchers in the majors in the last like 3 years. Other than that, I mean, nothing really does it for me. I mean, yeah, they're gonna suck big time, like bad.
Sad days in the Northwest with baseball this year.
Yeah,
I think Pacoda had them at a big fat 0% chance of making the playoffs. So I think they'll definitely be right on that.
Yeah.
And watch, this will be the year since everybody actually doesn't expect anything from them. They just go off and make a big run, win the AL West, and
no.
Okay, no.
I mean, don't get that crazy, but I mean, yeah, they could just mesh really well like they did at the beginning of last season. I mean, that's just really all it was just the team was just meshing well.
And that's what it usually takes, but can we take a minute to take our hats off for these guys, for the Seattle Mariners and their fans, considering the fact that they've had so many great teams over the last, 30 years and have never pulled off a World Series win. I mean, it's just...
True.
What was that one year that they went, 111? They had, 111 wins and then fizzled out in the playoffs.
Talk about 2001?
Yeah, 116.
Yeah.
Is what it was. Yeah, or, it's just they wasted King Felix. They wasted Nelson Cruz. Yeah, they wasted Ichiro. I mean, I feel bad for them. I mean, they had, some iconic players on their team and never could pull it off.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel bad how they wasted Ichiro. Because Ichiro was one of those guys that I just loved watching to play, even though he wasn't on my team. It's just, I appreciate the way he played, and and unfortunately, like you said, it was just another one of those wasted talents in Seattle. It's almost beginning to feel like Seattle is a place that careers go to end because it's just they flounder all great talent that they have, it seems. So hopefully that either they get it turned around and straightened out soon, or guys like Haniger can get out of there as fast as they can, because it ain't happening in Seattle right now.
It definitely is not.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
I just have to make one last little comment about the Mariners, and we can bring it up later if we ever do the DH versus no DH debate. But,
we definitely get into that one day.
I mean, projected lineups this year, Vogelbach is projected to hit 223.
Solid DH numbers.
Solid, yes. Please bring the DH to every team if we can have strong hitters like that.
That's Hall of Fame numbers right there.
I can't wait till we have that up. Because I told Jerry, Max, and Keith yesterday, in the contract, it currently states that every year I get one episode of this show where it's nothing, what we call the baseball episode. So we're going to talk nothing but baseball. And when we can get all your schedules together, we're going to all come on this show, and we're going to have, and DH versus no DH is going to be the headline topic of that episode.
Yep, that'll be a fun one.
The DH.
Oh, it definitely will. Well, damn it, Mac. There's another bleep.
You're welcome.
All right, let's move on down to the Texas Rangers. Last year they it seems like this all season to me at least Texas has said okay for the past so many years we've tried having the big bats in the lineup and we can't succeed. That hasn't gotten us to where we want to be. So now it seems like they want to shift from the bats to the pitching and hey, I mean, I'll give you at least I'll tip my cat at least to saying, hey, batting didn't do it for us. So let's see if pitching can get us to where we want to be. But looking at the lineup right now, they're projected to win 79 games. But according to one of their scouts that I read online, they think they can win 90 games. And Max,
Yeah.
has Texas lost their damn minds?
They haven't, but they have. Looking at just their roster as a whole, they could be like that 500 team, or they could surprise somebody and string together a good, August and September and push themselves into the wild card position. I mean, it's not unfathomable at this point.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, I mean, their starting rotation, I like it. I mean, I like Mike Minor a lot. Lance Lynn, Corey Kluber, Kyle Gibson, and Jordan Lyles are all projected to be the starters in the 5-man rotation. I mean, getting Corey Kluber is a good pickup for them. And Kyle Gibson, I like Kyle Gibson a lot. He's from Kansas City, so I have a special spot in my heart for him. But he's coming off of some injury issues, and we'll see if he's the Kyle Gibson from Minnesota, or if he's still kind of, banged up a bit. I mean, Chirinos at catcher, he's solid. First base, Ronald Guzman. And second base, Rougned Odor. He's awesome. You've got Elvis Andrus still. Todd Frazier on a 1-year deal at third base. I mean, that's a solid pickup too. I mean, he's not what he once was, but he's still really good. Outfield, they've got Willie Calhoun, Danny Santana, Joey Gallo, and Scott Heineman. Santana and Gallo are solid. There's not.
Speaking on Gallo, I was just gonna say. Speaking on Gallo, the big point about him is he missed a significant amount of time last year, but in the games that he played, he was actually putting up some very decent numbers.
He seemed to finally kind of put it together last season as far as when he was actually on the field.
It's just now if he can stay on the field for the majority of the season, like you said, Texas could find themselves competing for a wild card spot. But,
yeah, well, and here's the other thing. Going back to their rotation as well. I mean, they've got 2 top pitching prospects that are looking to possibly nudge their way into the rotation with Cole Winn and Hans Kraus. I mean, if Gibson or Lynn or Lyles doesn't seem to perform or gets hurt and those guys come up and perform, I mean, that could change the dynamic of their team pretty hardcore. I mean, they're kind of like that 50-50 team. Like, that they have the ability to do it. It's just a matter of whether or not they put it out there on the field. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this year. But in the division that they're in, I could see them just kind of messing around with 500 the entire season.
what do you think about the Rangers, Barbara?
Like Max said, they could either be, how they're projected, just mid-tier to nothing, or they could just find that mesh and do really well and either get that second wild card. I'd love for them to take I'd love for anybody but the Astros to take the AL West, but I mean, they could do it if they do mesh well in certain months. Their team is like, it's just like a well-known team. Like, you look at their roster and most of those names, whether or not they're good or bad, who they are. So they have a very well-known team that I like. Kluber coming off a horrible season last year, dealt with injuries. You're kind of nervous for him. Like, he's getting old. Is it going to be the same? Is he going to go back to being the Corey Kluber we all knew and were afraid? At least the Cubs were. I do like that Jordan Lyles guy. I think he'll be good fit for them. The other, who else? A Minor and Gibson. I mean, they're projected to have ERAs over 4. So, again, not great, but not absolutely terrible. So, I think they'll probably just fall into middle of the pack again. But if they just start meshing well and have a good month or two, they could find themselves easily in second wild card or first wild card.
I think it's basically going to be how far that bullpen can take them. Because, like I said, with the addition, like y'all said, with the addition of Kluber, that makes that starting rotation respectable at least. If you know, and then, like you said, it's not like they got rid of very many of their bats. They're still there. It's just they're trying to shift. They see more focus on their pitching. So, as far as that bullpen can take them, and like Max said earlier, if you sit there and they can sit there and have a successful March, April, May, okay, usually where you find yourself at June 1st, it's like March, April, May, you're trying to position yourself to be able to win the division. And where you are on June 1st, it then seems like, as far as baseball goes, it's more of who's going to lose their spot more than who can take a spot from June 1st on. And if Texas can find themselves right there for the AL West or for the wild card in the AL, it's basically then can they hold up for the rest of the year? And like you said, if they mesh well, then why can't Texas? But it's going to be interesting to see for sure. They're going to be an interesting team to watch.
Yeah, well, and one quick thing on Mike Minor. I know Barbara wasn't too keen on him, considering his projections for this year. But the guy's an innings eater, like serious hardcore innings.
True, he'll go deep.
Yeah, I mean he pitched 208 innings last year, had 200 strikeouts, and only walked 68 batters. I think he's a pretty solid guy. I think one of the issues is they play in Texas, so there runs will be generated in that ballpark. And the guy's solid. I mean, he's a good veteran to have on the team, and I think he'll eat innings and put up, a decent performance. Maybe give up 2-3 runs a game, but hopefully that offense that they have might be able to stack up and, keep it close.
Let's just hope though that the fire that happened at the new park back in December isn't an old bit of what's going to happen for the season.
Hey, they were burning sage.
That was 2019. It's okay.
Yeah, they were burning sage, man.
Yeah, sage. Yeah, okay, I'll if you say so. All right, let's move on though to the Oakland A's now. This team's won 97 games the last 2 years, but it seems like they can get to the AL wildcard game, but once they get to the AL wildcard game, that's it. They're out of gas, and
case in point, 2014.
18 and 19 too.
Well, yeah. Well, the most memorable one is 2014, that wild card game.
Yeah. But it's just that they're another team that's going to have a respectable rotation, in my opinion. But the thing is, I guess, Barbara, I want to ask you is, will Oakland finally get over the hump of the wild card game and find themselves in what I like to call the true postseason of MLB?
I don't think this year will be their year. I think that, unfortunately, I do still think that top two for the AL West and 4 wild cards, Los Angeles Angels will have 1 wild card game. I'm holding on to that, but I mean, the A's are the same thing. Like, some guys you look at and you're like, okay, yeah, they're going to have a good season. But then other guys, you're just like, why are they even playing baseball? I mean, and another DH guy projected to bat 236. I mean, their highest projected batter is going to be 280 and then a 270. Everybody else is 250 and below. You can't win games like that. Like, no matter how lights out your pitchers might be, if you can't hit, you're not going to win. So again, a lot of well-known names: Chapman, Piscotty, Chris Davis. Cubs did trade Tony Kemp to them, so they do have him for second base now, which, I mean, he was okay for us, but he's tainted. He was a 2017 Astro, so. Mike Fears, I mean, it's going to be an interesting year for the A's just because of the whole Astros investigation does start with them and Mike. So I think that is going to cause a lot of distraction in their clubhouse and with the players themselves, just because that's what they're going to be asked before every game from reporters, whatever city they're visiting, is how is it impacting their season with all of the crap that came out since they were like the front runners for it. And I mean, like Shauna said in your last episode, look what happened to the Cubs last year when you had Addison Russell on the team being a huge distraction in the clubhouse, and that was just one guy. I mean, this was the front office complaining to the MLB, and then Fears going to the media with it. Like, it's going to be a bigger distraction. So I think that could also hurt them. I mean, obviously, I'm very thankful for them for coming out with all of this, but I think in the end, that might hurt them this season.
Max.
Yep.
It seems like the last year, like for the Nationals were on their way to the postseason. It was May 24th that the switch flipped. It seems like for June is the month for the A's where they seem like they flipped their switch, because starting off the year they started slow, but then from that point on, when we got to around June, and it looks like June 16th, because a couple of years ago, and then right around the 13th last year. But
what do you think?
If they start slow this time,
Yeah.
will they be able to recover?
Yeah, they will be. They've got the pitching to do it. I mean, just looking at their projected starting rotation, it's hard not to like these guys. I mean, Sean Manaea, I mean, he's not the greatest, but he's good. I'll give him that. He's coming off shoulder surgery, though, so we'll see if he's back to the same form he was pre-shoulder surgery or not. Frankie Montez, Jesus Luzardo, Mike Fiers, and A.J. Puck. They've got two top prospects coming into their starting rotation. And not to mention, they've got Tanner Roark and Homer Bailey and Brett Anderson waiting in the wings just to see if they can recapture some of their former glory and come in and maybe nudge themselves into the starting rotation. I mean, that starting rotation alone should be able to keep them in games, even with what Barbara alluded to, not the greatest hitting team out there. So they should be pretty solid, and I mean, their relievers are really good too. I mean, there's not a lot on this team that you can't like, other than the fact that they're not going to be the greatest hitting team. I mean, they should be able to compete. Actually, I think the way I think this year is going to shake out, people are going to be surprised about the way this division ends up, with all things surrounding the division and a specific team in this division. I think it's going to be quite interesting to see what actually happens, but I think the A's are going to be one of those teams that benefits from it.
Well, at least one thing they won't have to contend with this year is the Raiders. They've gone to Las Vegas, so they won't have to worry about the field being torn up in September.
Or trash
But
cans.
but this is the question that's not related to this season. But let me ask y'all this: there's been talks of potentially the A's following the Raiders out to Las Vegas. Do y'all see that happening?
Yes, considering that the A's are like one of the most traveled teams in Major League Baseball history. I mean, they've been everywhere. What I think they started out in Philadelphia. Then they went to, correct me if I'm wrong. They went someplace else, and then they went to Kansas City, and then they went to Oakland. I think they've switched cities like 4 times in their history. It wouldn't surprise me considering that they're playing at the Coliseum anyways, and the Coliseum is like literally just a toilet bowl. I mean, sewer backups everywhere. It's just a dilapidated stadium. I could totally see them following the Raiders. Makes sense.
What do you think, Barbara?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep my dog calm.
Oh, you're fine. It's fine. But I guess the fact that back to where it goes on this year, it's like the A's they do have. Last year they had really good defense, and it seems like they'll at least have some pretty decent pitching. So there's a chance that they could once again pull off another where they can get back to the postseason. But there's also that chance because you have the Texas Rangers and the LA Angels, a division that are trying to get better, and that everybody's not going to be able to do it, unfortunately. So they could be the odd team out. But
true.
Let's move on.
I mean, they're not.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
They're not projected to be that far different from the Angels. So, like we've said with the Rangers and Mariners, if they have a good couple months, they're in. Whether or not they'll make it past that wild card,
still,
I can't see that, but I could see them making the wild card game again.
That's fair in my opinion. All right, let's move on to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. This team depresses me for one reason and one reason only. You have one of the greatest generational talents that we have ever seen, and you can't get him to the postseason. If you've heard this show since the beginning of this show, every time I talk about Mike Trout, the words that I always associate with him to the Angels are, get that man some help.
They did.
Yes.
They're going to the postseason.
Yes,
they're doing it.
They finally seem like they're trying to get that man some help. They brought in Joe Madden as the new manager. And if you've seen what he's done in his previous 2 stops, I mean, he helped turn Tampa Bay into a very respectable team. And then, of course, Barbara, you definitely know what he's done for the Cubs.
Yep.
But and then they've made other moves as well this year. They've they brought in Anthony Rendon.
Yeah, I think that's a great pickup for them.
Ohtani's supposed to be back in the starting lineup this year, and also back to pitching, I believe.
Love Tommy.
And I guess, Barbara, will the Angels finally get to the postseason? And can they at least get Mike Trout a postseason series win?
They are definitely getting to the postseason. I hope it's by AL West champion, but I have a terrible feeling it will just be by wild card. But yes, they are for sure getting in. I mean, Joe will work his magic. I think he'll be a great fit for them. I wanted Joe to actually go down to San Diego before the Angels got him. I thought he would have done really well down there. But I think he'll definitely take him to the postseason. I mean, they have a good team. Most of at least projected batting instances for this season, there's more that are above 280 than there are below, and that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have Trout batting 300, Rendon hitting 300, a lot of 280s. I'm very biased in my love for Tommy La Stella, 3 a.m., but especially now that his injuries are past him, he'll be great. You can't help but like Pujols. He'll do good. Upton's good. They actually have a very respectable DH, so for the Angels, I agree with the DH. And their pitching is... the pitching will be what hurts them the most, but I think that they will... It's not terrible. Like, it's not just going to be, why are you even throwing these guys? A lot of them, I mean, there's only one or two that really stand out that'll be really good, but who did they pick up? They picked up a pitcher. What's his name from the Braves?
Teheran?
Yeah, they picked him up, so I think he's going to be a good addition for them.
I see Dylan Bundy's gotten out of Baltimore, too.
What'd you say, Eric?
I see Dylan Bundy's gotten out of Baltimore.
Yep.
He's on the A's.
Yes.
Yep, he's on the A's. I mean, the Angels.
I really like their pitching staff this year. Like I said, there's no Cy Young. I mean, maybe Ohtani, but if he stays healthy, he could be. But it's not the starting five of the whole AL, but all around, I think they're very solid. Who's on there?
I see that Joe Adele is projected to make the opening day lineup on the bench. And he's basically. Go ahead, Max.
He would be a solid fourth outfielder for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they've done a lot this offseason. And I mean, last season, what did they finish?
But they were right around. They were under 500. I know, because they once again disappointed me. Let me see. They were Angels. Where are you? There we go. They were. Oh, good gracious! I didn't know that. 72 and 90.
Oh wow! I thought they finished better than that for some reason. I could see them being a 90 team win.
90 win team.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, 91 team. But again, if injuries plague them, then that will be terrible for the AL West. But I really think the Angels are the only competition really to take down the Astros from claiming the AL West again. But if I had money right now, I would for sure bet on them making the postseason.
Okay. Max, what do you think about the Angels?
I like them. I mean, they're stacked. The only thing I don't like on that team is Albert Pujols. I mean, other than that, I mean, what can you say about them that is terrible? Even their backups and guys that are looking like they could possibly make the team as like a backup for him, like Matt Thasis and Tommy La Stella. I mean, those guys are good. Their catcher's good. Their pitching rotation's good. The only question is really what happens with Shohei Ohtani. With the new rule that came out this year for the two-way player designation, since he spent last year only as a DH because he was recovering from Tommy John surgery the year prior, it doesn't look like he's able to start the season as a two-way player. It sounds like he's going to have to go pitch 20 innings before he can get that designation. So, other than that, I mean, Tehran, Heaney, Canning, Bundy, Otani, even guys like Sandoval and Barria. Those guys are going to be – it's going to be a solid pitching staff. I mean, I like what they've done. And Madden on their team as their manager, I mean, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, they're set up for a good season. And, again, once we get to the Astros, I'll kind of outline why I think the Angels might win the entire division because they have the team to do it. And, yeah.
To me, it's
and the Astros can't cheat anymore.
Yeah.
So hopefully they just drop by like 30 games. That would just be
Well,
amazing.
they can't cheat, and I think there's going to be some other things that happen with them. But, yeah, ultimately, I think the Angels are set up for success, some long-term success finally, because
Yeah.
I mean, their corners, I guess, are taken care of as far as first and third base with Rendon there now. Pujols is getting up there in age, but they've got some decent backups and replacement players to kind of spell Pujols. Otani, as a DH and as a pitcher, is solid for him. I mean, you can't really go wrong. And Stassi, he's a pretty damn good catcher too, and Jason Castro is a good backup for him. I mean, the only question is, will Stassi recover from his hip surgery in time to start the season as the number one catcher? He might be sidelined a little bit to let him get the rust off. Other than that, I mean, there's nothing you can really say bad about this team. I mean, they're poised for some success.
in my opinion, too, it's basically the bullpen is what's going to determine it. Now they don't have to have a lights out bullpen. That's not what I'm saying. As long as they can be respectable though, and don't lose them more games than they win them, then like you said, Max, the Angels will be right there in my opinion competing for the AL West. But if that bullpen though is the leg that drags them down, then it could be a long.
Yeah, the bullpen will be what makes or breaks them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Pacoda has them at 87-75 this
Wow,
season and a second wild card team.
That seems light for them.
Yeah, I really think they could get at least 90, if not more.
Well, I don't trust those Pacoda ratings at all. I think when the Royals won the World Series and went to the World Series in 2014, I think we were rated to get I think we were rated to be like a 500 team. And we had like 94 wins that year in 2015, and then the year following, they had us as like a 70 win team, and I think we were 81 and 81 that year. I think we were 81 and 81 in 2016. So
they had us at like 75 last year, which I think we were in the 80s, but they had us in like third or fourth place for the division, so they were right in that area at least. Unfortunately.
Well, hell, I think it was last year that they projected the Royals as like a 50-win team. And I was like, you've got to be shitting me. Like, yeah, I mean, like, we suck, but I don't think we suck that bad.
Yeah. Not on the Mariners style.
Yeah, they are not the Mariners. We actually have some hope this year, so I can't wait to talk about them when we get to the AL Central.
Next weekend.
I know. I'm ready.
All right. It's finally that time, Max and Barbara, that y'all been waiting for. We've gotten to the Houston Astros. They were 8 outs last year away from winning the World Series, but I'm pretty sure in y'all's minds, karma prevailed. The Nationals won, and then all hell opened up this offseason. But we'll get to that point later on in this part where we talk about the Astros. But let's start off with just on the field first, baseball wise.
Why you got to take the fun away? Why?
Oh no, I'm not.
I know.
I'm not taking the fun away.
That was the whole reason why I came on this damn show.
just to shit all over the Stros.
I'm not taking y'all's fun away. I'm saving y'all's fun for last. You know the saying: save the best for last. But on the field, how do y'all see the 2020 Astros playing out? Max, I'll start with you.
Hurt. They're gonna be hurt. I'm sorry to say this, but every team that's gonna face them is gonna send them a fastball to the rib cage every single game for at least once. And everybody's gonna get a warning, and that's all they're gonna get. So these people are gonna start getting hurt pretty bad because they have literally tainted the game of baseball single-handedly. So I think they're gonna be kind of hurt this year. And honestly, we can't project anything because guess what? They were cheating. So we don't know what Jose Altuve is without the trash cans. We don't know what Carlos Correa is without the trash cans. We don't know what Alex Bregman is without the trash cans. And the list goes on and on. Same thing with Springer, Tucker, Reddick. Brantley, he's all right. Alvarez, don't know what he is without the trash cans. I mean, they do have a good starting rotation, but it's old with Justin Verlander, Zach Greinke, McCullers. I don't see them being what they once were. Greinke is way up there. I'm not sure if he'll have much left in the tank after this year, so we'll see how it plays out. I mean, Verlander's a perennial guy that's always at the top of his game, but yet again, he's getting up there in age. I think with everything that's come out these last couple weeks, I think it's going to wear on them pretty hardcore, and they're going to get burnt out pretty quick as far as the pitching staff is concerned. I mean, their relievers are good, but that's about all they have for them. I mean, we can't really project anything for them considering how much they cheated over the last 4 years. So I can't sit here in good conscience and say, oh, they're going to win the division and they're the best team in their division, because we don't know. We don't know what they did as far as cheating and how it truly affected the overall performance from these guys. Yes, it did.
It didn't have an impact.
Yeah. Oh, that makes me so f***ing mad. Like, yes, it did.
I didn't say they didn't have an impact. I didn't say they didn't have an impact.
Yeah, I didn't say that. What are you talking about?
I really hope these guys get tagged with baseballs left and right. Like, they need a fastball to the ribcage every single game to show them.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Greinke get touched a few times in the postseason as well?
Didn't he what?
Didn't he get touched a few times in the postseason?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Because I know the Yankees got him game one, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the Nationals get him once too as well?
Yeah, they did. I mean.
So yeah, it's like, is age catching up? Like you said, is age catching up with him? But,
well, and I saw a tweet yesterday that Greinke still hasn't even reported to spring training.
He doesn't
yet.
want to be there for that media circus. Like, he literally doesn't want to be there.
True. I mean, he's always had a problem with media, and now he has to deal with Houston media.
The worst media in the country.
I can't even imagine. Yeah. But I mean, you can still report for, like, your in-house meetings and to start practicing and whatnot and just not deal with the media. Especially with Greinke, people would understand if he chose not to show face during this time because he's always had an issue with media. He's always had that social anxiety. So I think people would understand him not talking. And especially since he was only with the Astros for 5 months last year. Like, he's definitely new to this whole thing. So
well, and
they would have the same issue of him being up there talking about it like how people did with Dusty. Like, bro, this literally has nothing to do with you at this point. Like,
yeah.
We don't want to hear from you.
Well, and I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Greinke just, like, up and retired. Just just like
Yeah, I could see this being too much for him.
Yeah, I mean the guy's. I mean he has social anxiety disorder. I love the guy to death. Like, he is a phenomenal person. He doesn't want to be around that bullshit. Like, any kind of controversy, he doesn't want to be there. Any kind of media, like, circus, he doesn't want to be there. He's made enough money in his lifetime, and he doesn't love the game like some of these other people do. He will retire. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's 35. Like, it probably is crossing his mind, questioning of retiring right now.
He wants to go play golf. Like, that's what he's thinking about doing right now. Like, I can guarantee you, like, he's like, no, I'm going to go play golf professionally now. Like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
He's done it once before, and that was when he was, just a kid in the Royals organization, when we thought he was going to be the savior. Like, it was too much media attention for him. In Kansas City, a very small market team. Like, I can only imagine what he's going through right now.
All right, Max and Barbara. Now that we've gotten through the on-field portion, now you go have your fun, as I promised. So,
well, we didn't even talk about we did talk about their pitching a bit, but losing Cole.
And we all know what.
How excited are you, Eric?
Yay.
Are you nervous?
Oh, I'm nervous for anyone that comes to New York as a pitcher, just because, Yankee Stadium, and look what it did to Sonny Gray.
Yeah.
Sonny Gray was Yankee Stadium and Sonny Gray just are like vinegar and well, I'm not gonna go vulgar here, but you get my point. But it's just you always worry for those new pitchers, because pitching in Yankee Stadium with that short porch and right is just you don't know. You don't know if like on the road. I'm actually more concerned about him pitching at home than I am on the road, because as a visiting pitcher, well, of course you've been to all of these parks, but it's like now your bread and butter of the season is going to be here. Like, you saw what he did to us in Game 3 of the ALCS. Can you bring that same energy, 14, 15 starts of the year? Can you bring that same energy to us? If you can, we're going to love him out in New York. But even if he doesn't even bring us that same energy, if he brings us 60% of that same energy, we'll love him. But now if he sits there and performs to the point where it doesn't justify that contract, they'll turn on him. And if they turn on him, I've seen it where when New York media turns on a player, and basically that's it for them. They're ruined. So.
Yeah.
But we'll get more into that on the AL East preview when we get there. But that's just I believe we'll love him, though. I do.
I mean, I know my bias with Houston is very strong, even before all this new cheating crap came out, but I've also always just been on the Trevor Bauer train that there's something going on with their pitching staff. Like, I am not convinced that all of those pitchers are as good as they are when they play in Houston.
You mean by...
it just blows my mind that he can pitch for Pittsburgh and have a 4 or 5 ERA and then go to Houston and have 2.25 or below, and be in the Cy Young contender. I know change of scenery can literally sometimes change a player, but for it to literally happen with almost every pitcher they acquire, that's just a little too sketchy.
Well, the same thing happened with Verlander. He was struggling in Detroit, and then he goes to Houston, and then he's like, oh, I'm a Cy Young guy again.
Yeah, I'm the best pitcher ever.
And Greinke got a little bit of a rejuvenation there as well.
Yeah, Greinke was terrible for Arizona.
Yeah, and just looking at this team, everything's a question mark at this point. Nothing is a guarantee. Mm-hmm. Nothing is. And they did it to themselves. I mean, they're forever going to be questioned for the remainder of their careers. it sucks to see for Justin Verlander because as much as I hate the guy because he played for the Tigers and he was a division rival for the Royals, I still respected him. And then he goes and gets a ring with the Astros. But at what cost?
Yeah.
At what cost was it? He tarnished his reputation. I mean, all these guys have a tarnished reputation now. We'll never know what real Jose Altuve is. We'll never know what real Bregman is.
And especially like Altuve, they try and like shove that feel-good story down your throat. Like, you know, he just like persevered and tried so hard to get signed by a team. Like, he really did have to prove who he was. And then he resorts to cheating. Like, what? Like, you taint your own legacy. Like you said, you tainted your own legacy. You ruined that feel-good story that shows people, like, you can really start from the bottom and rise to the top.
Exactly, and this just proves that the better feel-good story is Whit Merrifield. He's the better second baseman. He's the better hitter. He's the better feel-good story. Yeah. I mean, he spent 7 years in the minors and finally made it and turned into the best second baseman in all of them.
Yeah, talk about a glow up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and now he's coming out and trashing these guys. He's like, give me my Silver Slugger and give me my first team All-Star. I mean, he deserves it. Altuve sure as hell doesn't. I mean, all those guys.
And then even in like 20, 30 years, when all these guys are done and out of the league, and then their names are being brought up for Hall of Fame stuff, like Greg and I were talking last night. Like, yeah, their names are going to be brought up for Hall of Fame. I mean, look at what the MLB's been posting the last few days about the top 20 players. 3 Astros are in there.
Yeah.
Like, how can they confidently post that, especially right now after the week the Astros
Exactly,
had.
And they're getting trashed on those.
Yeah. I mean, even the Astros Twitter is getting trashed. Like, every post that Astros Twitter makes, all the comments are just people calling them cheaters, calling them losers, like, trashing them. I mean, I love it, but...
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And I think, too, like, when you mentioned when it comes up to Hall of Fame, you notice how right now, that the steroid guys, they're not getting the votes to get into the Hall of Fame. So...
Yeah, so these guys better not either.
Yeah, like I love to say, bring that same energy when it comes to this, you know?
Yep. And I've never understood, like, that's a lot of the, like, Astro defenders, that's one of their biggest arguments is, well, look at, like, you guys didn't care this much about steroid use and steroid guys and stuff. And it's
we
like,
did.
If one dude, I mean, if one dude went and did steroids, that's only affecting him. Like, one person cannot make a team win games, win championships. Like, one person can't bring them to the playoffs. So if one guy on your team is using steroids, he's boosting his personal numbers, and that's it. I mean, yeah, he is affecting the team, but not enough to say that, oh, it's because of the steroids that they went and won this World Series in 1998.
There's still 24 other guys on that team that have to perform.
Yeah.
I mean, it's plain and simple.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, 24 other guys versus an entire team cheating to then win. That it's just asinine. Yeah. And anybody defending these guys do not understand the ramifications that this has. I mean, it's absolutely atrocious. It is a horrible look for baseball. And the more and more shit that keeps on coming out, the worse Manfred looks. I mean...
Manfred, I was really happy with Manfred coming out and saying, like, you know, we're going to take these allegations seriously. We're going to investigate them. And I was like, yes, do your thing. And then, now we're punishing them. Like, okay, yes, you caught them, punish them. And then it was just like, what? That's the punishment? That's what you're going to do? And then to have all the rest of the information come out, it was just like, it just made no sense. And it just makes Manfred look like a huge...
Yeah, well...
And just covering it up, like, especially finding out that it wasn't even Fears that first started reporting and to the MLB about them cheating. It was the A's organization as a team. So you have a team coming to you and saying, hey, we really think that this team is cheating and doing X, Y, and Z. And why aren't you looking into that? Like that's a serious allegation.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that every team is contacting you with allegations like this to where you would say, oh, it's just another bullshit allegation. It doesn't mean anything. Like I can't see that being a thing.
And the fact that
So
multiple
for a whole
teams
organization, yeah, and then to just ignore them after multiple reports, and then fears going to the media and doing that article with The Athletic, and then now you want to step in and play the good guy and act like shocked, like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening under my nose. Like, well, no, you've known about it, and now it just makes me lose respect for the front office of baseball too. Like, I wish I had the willpower to boycott them at this point. I don't, because I love baseball too much, but like, I hate what Manfred is doing to the game.
Yeah, and originally I thought the punishment that they doled out for him wasn't like that terrible. Like I
Same.
like it was a decent punishment. Like, it wasn't like too heavy-handed, but it was heavy-handed enough to kind of send a little message. But then everything,
Yeah, especially for what we knew at that time.
Right. Exactly. And now the more and more stuff that comes out, and the more and more that they're backtracking, and the more and more that they're just like, yeah, we cheated, you guys, so what? Suck our.
Yeah.
We won the World Series fair and square. No, you didn't. Like, it doesn't matter that you think that you won the World Series fair and square. It is tainted. Like, everything about that postseason, everything about that team is tainted. Like,
yeah, like, keep your rings. Who cares at this point? Keep the trophy too if you want to kiss on it and hug it every night. If that's what makes you sleep better, by all means do it.
But we're gonna take away that
literally
title.
Everybody knows you're still tainted. Yeah, like, everyone will always talk about how this team cheated. And 2017 was not a real championship. I don't care what the record books say. Like,
this is the Black Sox scandal. This is the Pete Rose thing. I mean, it's all of it wrapped into one. You know how, like, every 15 or 20 years in baseball, there's this big scandal, and it's like this one group of people will always get excluded from the annals of history on being on the good side, and they're the ones to do it. I mean, good for them. I'll applaud them for being the shittiest organization in baseball. I mean, good for you guys. You guys will always be remembered as complete assholes that tainted the game. And people are going to talk about this for so many years that it's not even funny. And it's going to get annoying at some point. But right now, like, what the MLB...
Oh, it's annoying already.
No...
It's the way they're handling it. Like, it's not even the fact that they cheated now. Like, I think everybody could look past that if they would just be remorseful and take accountability and show that they truly are sorry and love the game for what it is. But none of them are doing that. The only person that I've seen show any remorse is Tony Kemp. And part of me is like, well, are you only saying that because you play with the A's now and that's the most drama is the A's and the Astros right now? Like, Tony came out and said yesterday that he, of course, for the media, was asked about his role in doing this with the Astros. And he said when he first joined the Astros in 2017, the players started asking him, like, oh, we're doing this. We're figuring out what the pitches are. Like, do you want in on it? Like, we can help you, blah, blah, blah. And he was just like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. And if that's true, then good for him. I wish him all the best in his career. But again, are you only saying that because of who you play with now? Because you're not on that team anymore.
He's saving face.
Because then you go and hear... Exactly, because then you have Dallas Keuchel, who, right after they won the World Series, is making all these snide remarks towards Cub fans and Cubs, like, oh, we're not the Cubs, we're not going to have a World Series hangover, blah, blah, blah. And then he's still doubling down 2 days ago and saying, we earned that title. You didn't earn shit. Like, like I said, you can keep your rings, your trophy, whatever, and think that you earned it, but you didn't earn anything when you blatantly cheated. Like, that's not how this works.
Yeah, it sucks, and I'm not surprised that Cole left. Because I'm guessing he didn't want to be a part of that anymore. Like even before, like all this stuff came out. Like I think he had like a conscience about him, and said, you know what, I'd rather be on a different team. Sure, it was probably about money, but a lot of people were thinking that he would actually go to the Astros or get signed by the Astros, and he went in the complete opposite direction and went to the Yankees. So. I mean, I think there's some guys on that team that like don't deserve the criticism, especially guys like Greinke and Cole. But outside of that, every single one of those players on that team shouldn't be allowed into the Hall of Fame if they put up the numbers even throughout the rest of their career. They should always be remembered as the team that cheated. Their 2017 World Series win didn't count. And here's the other thing that needs to happen. The MLB needs to reopen this case.
Yeah.
And they need
100%.
And they need to get to the bottom of it and dish out the correct punishments. I'm thinking,
Which, I mean, like other people have said, the players union won't let the players get punished.
Oh, that's bullshit. The players union's going to come to realize that this is going to affect their livelihood too.
Well, and I agreed with that 2 days ago. But then the fallout from that stupid press conference on Thursday, Thursday, whenever day it was, and just the fact that coaches, players, GMs of other teams are all speaking out, even though Manfred sent out a memo when the first report dropped, if people speak out on this, they could face discipline. And these players are just saying, F that. Like, we need to speak out because this is bogus. Like, this is not cool. This is not fair. And now the fact that all these other people are now talking about it, I think the players union wouldn't choose to protect them because they have to protect these other players now. Like, who are you going to protect? These 25 people or your other hundreds of players?
Well, that's what I was trying to get at is, like, the players union's not going to care about one team. They're going to care about the MLB as a whole. And what's best for the MLB as a whole is to persecute the Astros. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't care if they just were like, F it, we're dismantling the Astros. And guess what? We're going to create the Expos again.
That's what I said from day one when these allegations came out back in November. Like, but I knew at that point, like, that was just my Houston bias talking. And I was just like, screw Houston. They don't even deserve an MLB team. Fire everybody, take the players, and move them to a new state and city. Like, I mean, a couple years ago, MLB said they bought all that land out in, Oregon? Oregon? Build a team out there and send them there. Like, and I was like, no, that's just you being biased against Houston.
I don't think that's a bias anymore.
After all this crap, no.
It's not a bias anymore. It's a true baseball fan feeling. Like when you're like, no, they need to dismantle that team because it's tainted completely. You remember what was it, a couple of years ago before all this stuff happened when, what was it? Who was the executive that came from the Cardinals to the Astros?
Oh, that stole all the...
Talk about the hectic abuse and got the...
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, we should have known something was weird with them when that happened. Like, it's just, they're a shitty organization. I mean, burn it to the ground, for Christ's sakes. I mean, I can't stand them. And it's not because I don't like Houston. It's because I love baseball, and they have ruined it. It's as plain and simple as that. I mean...
Oh, yeah, it was a Cardinals scouting guy. And he even went to prison.
Yeah.
Like, yes, send some of these dudes to prison. I'm over them.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at, but I could not remember the details of that. I was like, even those punishments were, like, appropriate for what they did, and this far surpasses what that guy did. I mean, come on. Let's man up.
Even the Braves guy, that was literally banned for life.
Well, and they're gonna ban like Lynch for life. They're gonna ban Beltran for life. They're gonna ban Cora for life. They're gonna ban Ludau.
Cora for sure, especially since they still haven't talked about that.
Well, I'm just thinking about like the four what the Astros came out and tried to like project as the four major players of all of this, and it was Ludau, Hinch, Beltran, and Cora. Those are like the four guys that this all revolved around, and since they're all gone from the Astros, they've kind of just pointed fingers at them and went like, hey, these were the guys, the driving forces behind all of it, especially Beltran, which is bullshit. Like, some people have even come out and said, like, no, like, it wasn't as bad as what people made it out to be. Like, Beltran, like, suggested it, and we all just went along with it. Like, yeah, it's that Beltran did that, and I've lost respect for him, but it wasn't like he was shoving it down their throats. They just accepted it because they're all human beings, and they wanted to cheat.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. Like, if you have he's one guy. If the majority of your team had a brain and any type of morality, like, they would sit there and say, no, we're not going to do this. Like, what the hell are you thinking? Like, he's one dude. So don't tell me that was he holding a gun to your guys' head at this point? Because how is one guy getting all of the blame for it?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a part of me that understands why Beltran wanted to cheat, and that's because he wanted to finally get a ring. I can understand that. It's wrong, but it's not like they stopped right after he got a ring. It was, no, they made that thing a driving force in their organization. I mean, it's gone on since the end of last year. And everybody in the MLB knew about it, especially going into the postseason last year. And the MLB as a whole, as far as the teams are concerned, they were like anybody but Houston to win the World Series. So, for Manfred to just sit there and only do the punishment that he did and close the case pretty much looks like some pretty weak bullshit at this point. And he's gonna be forced to reopen this, and he's gonna be forced to really dish out some hardcore punishments on this, because it's way worse than what we originally thought it was. Way worse.
And especially after the press conference, like, that just made it 10 times.
Well, yeah. Oh, we don't regret what we did. We don't regret it. Like, sorry, but not sorry. And we're the true champions of 2017. No, you're not. That was all done under false pretenses. I mean, seriously, that's the weakest argument I've ever heard for cheating, ever.
Like, I wish I could have been, like, a fly on the wall in Manfred's house when he was watching the press conference. Because Jim Crane basically just, like, slapped him in the face, knocked him down, and spit on him with his press conference. Like, it was such a load of shit.
Yeah, I don't know how the MLB continues without really hammering these guys.
Because, I mean, you got to look at it, too. Now, Manfred technically works for the 30 owners, and the other 29 owners ain't too happy with, basically, like you said, with what happened. So, if he gets enough, the thing is, if the other 29 owners put enough pressure behind him to reopen this case, he's got to reopen this case. Because, like you said, essentially, he works for them.
Yeah.
And what I can see now, I know Max was just being maxing, with the relocation, but don't be surprised.
I'm not being just outlandish with it. Like, that's honestly what should be done. I mean,
now what I'm thinking is, though, don't be surprised, though. I'm not gonna say this is exactly what's gonna happen, but don't be surprised if they reopen the case. Like you said, the lifetime bans are handed out, and Crane is at least forced to sell the team.
That's what I think should happen, 100%.
And MLB takes the control of the team from him immediately until they can find a new owner for that team, because, at this point... and get
with how many like hands have been in this, just clear the whole front office at this point. Like,
yeah.
Nobody's safe,
And
or nobody should be safe.
and unless they got there unless you took a position in that front office after the past World Series happened, then yeah, don't be surprised if they come in and say, hey, everybody that was here prior to this date, you're out. And then you Crane gets and with the four that you name, throw Crane in for a lifetime ban too, because that hey. Like I said, don't be surprised, because like you said, Barbara, I was sitting there thinking that same thing. Manfred's got to be pissed because it's like, at this point,
like how embarrassing for him.
Yeah, because it's like, to me, it sounds like, all right, well, I sat there and asked y'all to be upfront with me, and now the way y'all talking, you withheld information too. So
yeah,
and like you said, if the other 29 owners put pressure on Manfred and the commissioner's office to reopen this case is getting reopened. So
it better.
And to the fans of the Astros, I want to say this: with what originally came out, nobody called for your title to be stripped. I mean, we knew that wasn't going to happen. Nobody sat here and looked for that to happen. All we wanted, as reasonable fans, was basically for you to come out, own that you did it, and then if you're committed to cleaning up your organization, do it by just saying anyone that participates in these acts going forward is immediately terminated. That's all we want. But I mean the whatever that's been said since then, it's like, no, we know that y'all not sorry it happened.
Yeah,
we can tell it's a fake apology. But,
well, now we can't trust anything that they come out with at this point. Even if they are trying to apologize, like truthfully apologize, we're all going to take it with a grain of salt because they haven't done anything up until this point to prove that they're remorseful in any way, shape, or form. I mean,
and especially since they had 3 months to prepare for this.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's literally why you hire PR teams.
Yep.
That's why you hire certain people to do this job. I mean, celebrities are in scandals all the time. You don't think they have people writing a guilty and a not guilty clause? Like,
and you
should have had both of them written up a month after this happened.
And y'all,
after the allegations came out, at least.
And y'all saw that PR thing that I drew up as an example.
Yeah.
I drew that up in 5 minutes. I mean,
and that's not even your job.
Exactly. I drew that up in 5 minutes. And if you sit there and you give that, it's like, all right, and it's going to take time. Nobody's going to instantly forgive you. That's not how forgiveness works. If you think somebody instantly forgive you, I got some swamp land in Kansas I want to sell you. Max, you know about that swamp land in Kansas because I sold you some of it.
Yep. I got 47 acres of it.
But seriously, you got to sit here and show people over time that you truly mean what you said to ask for forgiveness. And right now, that's not happening. So, but with that being said, let's get into some predictions about the final standings for the AL West. Max, give us your order.
Seattle, Houston.
Wow.
You're going last
to first.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I was about to say.
Wow.
Yeah. No. I'm not that dumb. But this next one's going to make you guys go, whoa. All right. Seattle, Houston.
Ooh.
Rangers.
Okay.
A's, Angels.
Okay.
And Houston is in second to last because they are going to get injured pretty hardcore this year. And it's not like me calling for them to be injured either. It's just baseball is a self-digesting sport, and they are going to get f***ed up. I mean, there's no way around it. It's a fact of life at this point, especially with guys like Trevor Bauer going like, yeah, you guys are bullshit, and you're going to get what's coming to you. So I see them
The only thing that would save them at that point is if they were getting hit like the first 2 weeks of games, and then the MLB just puts out a warning every single game of theirs for the rest of the season.
Oh, well, then I think what might happen is you'll see some openers start the season or start every game. Like their worst reliever goes in and opens the game and plunks the first guy. I mean, somebody will find a way around it. I mean,
yeah,
it'll be pretty interesting to see what happens. And then I think the Astros are just going to get so dejected by all of it and the media circus that's going to surround them for the rest of the year. I think they're going to get worn out pretty quick, and they're not going to survive. They just aren't. So, fourth place for them.
Here's my order. I got the Angels. I got the Astros.
Okay, you're going from first to last.
Yeah, I go first to last.
Okay.
I got the Angels. I have the Astros, only because I don't know what kind of a team they are. Like,
right.
I mean, that's a fair point. You don't know how much it affected, so we have to see through the year. But I have the Angels, the Astros, I have the A's, the Rangers, and then the Mariners. Now, a big reason, too, is because of this point that Shauna brought up last week, as you said, Barbara. With Addison Russell on the Cubs, and you saw the stats of with him on the team, with him off the team, and how his distraction basically, like I said last week, costed the Cubs, in my opinion, a postseason berth, okay? This right here is going to be a distraction all year. This ain't going away for the Astros. And as we see in sports, distractions don't usually help your team do better. So, like I said, we don't know how this distraction is going to, we don't know to what degree it's going to affect the Astros this year. So that's why.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, take what Dallas Keuchel said, though. We are not the Cubs. And our guys had an issue with the distraction in the clubhouse because we have decent human beings on our team. So, Astros do not have decent human beings.
But they're gonna get worn down with the circus, the questions every single day. I mean,
yeah.
I mean that's a given. I mean, you can't sit there and think that they're not gonna get worn out so quick.
Especially with baseball being an everyday sport. Like, with distraction in football and basketball and hockey, at least you have days in between the games to get yourself charged back up. Baseball is you're back out there tomorrow, and the grind and whatnot, you could have 13 straight games before you get another off day. And the grind of the season, like you said, that's a very valid point in my opinion, Max.
Yeah, and here's the other question I need to pose on this. So is the MLB going to have a ref or an ump specifically on the field to give every Houston batter a pat down before they go up to the plate? And will they have an ump stand at the entrance of the dugout to look for trash cans?
That's a damn.
Or at least listen.
Well, I think
that's a damn shame that.
But
they're gonna have to do something because I think they're gonna get to a point where they're gonna try to revert back to their cheating ways, some way, somehow, because they are gonna get like really, really down on themselves with the media circus and with poor performance because they don't have that cheating aspect, and they're gonna find another way. So.
and I never even thought of this beforehand, but like with what you showed me the other day, Eric, about the what's his name, the catcher for Washington, how he was saying even in this recent World Series, in 2019, he could hear the whistling. Were umps even like investigated in this scandal, in this in the investigation by the MLB? Because if catchers on other teams were hearing this nonsense going on, why were no umps hearing anything and questioning it?
Because they're trained to tune out the noise, and they're there solely look, especially the home play.
I mean, I guess, but when you hear the repetitiveness, as frequently as this was apparently happening, and for the fact that it was happening for, as we know, for sure 2 years, possibly 3 years.
It's.
I'm kind of questioning some of these umps now too.
It started in 2016. I mean, they came out and said after that playoff loss versus the Royals in 2015, that's when they made the conscious
That's
decision
right.
to start cheating.
Now, here's the thing, but to answer your question, Max, the only way I can truly see that coming back, because I don't see Dusty Baker as being a guy that's going to sit still and allow that to
Well,
happen.
I don't see Dusty doing it, but I think the players might take it into their own hands at that point.
And
Yeah.
in that case, don't be shocked if Dusty Baker resigns.
Yeah, because
Because, like I
Dusty's a
said,
good guy. I like Dusty. I'm sorry that he went to the Stros. I mean, he
I
doesn't
am
deserve
too.
it.
Yeah, they only hired him to save face, and I feel bad for Dusty.
yeah, because I don't see Dusty Baker being able to sit still for that. I really don't. I mean, it comes to the point, I could see Dusty Baker actually being the next. If it ever comes back, I see Dusty Baker being as the next whistleblower because I don't see him sitting still for that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You know what's funny is some of these people are trying to like equate what the Astros did to what like Pineda does with the pine tar, or what the George Brett pine tar incident was.
Mm-hmm.
You know the reason why there's a rule that the pine tar can only go so far on the bat. Do you guys know why?
Mm-hmm.
It's to keep
No.
the ball clean. It's not anything about
Oh.
performance enhancing or anything like that. It's about keeping the ball clean.
We got to keep our ball
So
clean.
it's yeah.
Barbara,
That's their main concern.
Yeah.
let's get your prediction on your order of the AL West this year.
Okay. I did have Astros in at least second, but well, I guess they could still take it. But so okay, first to last, I'm gonna go Angels, A's, Houston, Rangers, Mariners.
I could see that as a possibility.
Yeah.
And if the Astros do make the playoffs, whether it's a wild card or just by taking the AL West, I really think Dusty's tried and true never winning a playoff game is going to hold. So I don't see them advancing in the playoffs at all, even if they make it.
Yeah. Well, and you guys got to think of
That breaks my heart. That breaks my heart for Dusty.
yeah.
It breaks my heart too, but I mean, stats don't lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You know, they're going to be the Astros are in the worst division for themselves because they've got some like old school like baseball corrects itself kind of players in their division. So, it's going to be really interesting to see what the happens. I mean, I can only imagine what Albert Pujols wants to do to those guys.
Yeah.
My bleep button's gonna work
I'm
overtime this episode.
I'm just excited for all the fallout from baseball. I mean, yesterday you had Cody Bellinger come out, which he was just literally 100% speaking facts.
Yeah.
You've had Mike Rizzo for the Nationals, their GM, come out and basically say, screw what they said. We're not going to forgive them until they use the actual word cheating. Admit what the hell you did. And then this morning, I was getting tweets when we were first starting the show. Chris Bryant was being asked about all this cheating scandals, and he was basically just saying the same stuff Cody was saying. Like, the punishments were weak. He said they got fined $5 million. Do you make that selling beer at a game? Like, it's so true. That's literally $100 to us. Like, it's nothing. I don't know where they got that $5 million from.
It's the maximum that MLB's allowed to fine a franchise.
That's true. So do it for every year they're caught cheating at least.
Well, and
Like,
here's the other thing.
Make it interesting.
They ruined a dude's career. That
Oh, I'm pretty sure they ruined more than one.
no, but like that one guy's career just got absolutely tanked from one game. Like, and people are saying that didn't
The guy that's
Yeah.
suing them now?
because
Yeah.
what was it? The guy that made the graph for all the different trash can
Oh
bangs
yeah,
and stuff
that's
like
right.
that.
I remember that.
Yeah.
They put up 15 runs on that guy in his first like MLB appearance that year, and they correlated that the most trash can bangs out of any single
Or in that game.
Was that game during his pitching performance.
Yeah.
And he was literally out of baseball like that year because of that. Like, personally, if I was on a team that did that, I would try to make reparations with that guy. Like, that guy needs.
Like, how do they not feel bad for that?
Like, that's just.
Like, just as a person.
Yeah, I couldn't live with myself if I was on a team that did that to someone.
Yeah, like literally knowing you had a hand in ruining a guy's career. I mean, they can play because that's all the defenders do is play the what if game. Well, you know, I mean, he wasn't that good.
It doesn't matter. He could be a role player on a team.
Exactly.
I mean, but like the difference between a guy that might give up like 3 runs in an inning versus a guy that gave up 15 runs in his only appearance in the MLB. Like, that's a huge, huge thing. Like, 15 runs on a guy is, like, so bad, and it, like, made sense as to why he's never pitching again. But then looking back at, like, what they did to him, it's not like he had the wherewithal to adjust because he was so new to being up in the majors that, like, it's not like he was a veteran that knew how to adjust to it and knew how to...
Or was just having a bad game.
or anything like that. Like, this guy was so new to it, and then they cheated so hard on him that it, like, literally broke his spirit on the mound and got him out of baseball.
Yeah.
Like, that is horrible. That is the worst thing that you could possibly do. And they owe that guy a lot of money. They owe that guy another chance. I don't even know if he can pitch again because baseball's such a mental sport. Like,
yeah,
that guy's probably ruined for life when it comes to pitching because...
I mean, the same is like with you, Darvish. Yeah. Like, I'm glad the Cubs took a chance on him and we got him on a steal. Like, he was so good for us last year. But just knowing what he had to go through mentally from leaving the Dodgers before he came to us that offseason, like, I just can't imagine, like, being a professional pitcher and then just being a good pitcher or at least an okay pitcher and then that happening to you and then everybody blaming you for not winning like Dodger fans did, which, okay, yeah, fans are crazy. We know that. So it was warranted at the time. But then, so him just questioning, like, what did I do so wrong? Like, how did I get here? I was a good pitcher. How did I just all of a sudden, like, how are my mechanics so off that this happened? Like, tearing himself mentally apart.
Yeah, and it's just horrible to see. Like, I know as a Royals fan, like, we get a lot of retread pitchers. Like, that's like our bread and butter. We'll get like a trash can pitcher. Mm-hmm. No pun intended there. Like, we'll literally pull a guy out of the dumpster and try to like polish him off and like restart his career for him. And we do that successfully most of the time. And to see guys succeed after like horrible seasons and horrible injuries and they come back and actually pitch and perform, you know, guys like,
yeah, that's a feel-good story.
Like I want to see that happen for the guy, but I don't know if it can happen considering how bad of an inning that was.
Yeah.
And everything that went behind that inning. Like, yeah. I don't know if, like, the yips are real, man. And I don't think that guy's going to ever recover from it. And he is owed some financial compensation because you never know what if with that guy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, wow, we've been nearly 45 minutes talking about the Astros.
No,
I didn't think it'd go that long.
They
really?
deserve...
I thought it was going to go longer, honestly.
But I guess before we close this episode, do y'all have any final words that you'd like to share?
Yeah. The Stros.
Yep.
100%.
Bleep button's definitely working overtime this episode. And,
they're a disgrace at this point. Like, it's...
Burn the organization to the ground.
I'm glad the Cubs played them last year, so we don't have to play them this year. I know that I told Greg if the only game we make it to in Phoenix for the Diamondbacks this year, if we can only make it to one, I want it to be to the Astro game just because I want to boo the crap out of them every time they're up. Greg didn't agree with me on that. He won't take me for that reason. But
If you get a chance, I'm not sure if the Royals play him this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of Royals fans will be doing that. Like, for some
I think every team should
well, us Royals fans, for some reason, like, we have, like, this personal, like, feeling of, like, I don't know why we don't like them. Maybe it's because we feel like we own them, especially because of 2015. And we like to see them suffer, so I wouldn't be surprised, considering like how much we booed Robinson Cano for not picking Billy Butler for the home run derby in the 2012 All-Star game. I can only imagine the backlash towards like Astros players for being like just shitty baseball. I mean, it'll be interesting. I'm really excited to see that, and I think Boston and New York will be the same way. Chicago fans might, I know they're not going to be playing each other, but like Chicago fans would be the same way. I could see like Dodgers fans like really going hardcore on them.
Yeah, like old baseball clubs.
Yeah, like White Sox. White Sox would definitely be one of those teams.
And let's not get started with the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean there's going to be some pretty interesting like crowd environments wherever the Astros go to play. And there's going to be some like really interesting team interactions versus the Astros because there are a lot of old school baseball guys still playing today, and they are going to want retribution.
I mean, congratulations, Eric. You guys, the Evil Empire will not be the most hated team this year.
I don't know how to...
And possibly for the next couple years. Like, you have it off for a little bit, so live it up.
And,
I don't know how
and that's
that's
hard to say.
I was embracing the hate. What am I supposed to do for the next couple of years now?
But you gotta feel good though that like all of baseball outside of Houston is unified together now. Like everybody's like
rallying against them.
Watch the 29 teams versus one is essentially what it's come down to. Like nobody cares about anything else other than it's 29 versus 1 at this point.
And then some of the delusion that some of these fans have, that they're just like, well, whatever, like other teams are doing it just because they didn't get caught.
God,
like,
that's just
what? Like, I'm pretty sure I learned in kindergarten, 25 years ago. 25 years ago. That 2 wrongs do not make a right. Like, you learn that as a child. So I don't understand how they just have this mentality of, well, it's okay because other people are doing it. Like,
the other people that did it, well, it wasn't to this degree, and then also it was before that rule was sit there and put in the sand. That line was drawn in the sand. It said anybody else that get caught doing this faces severe punishments. And that's why, and that was before the 2017 postseason. So that's why they're in trouble, and that's why I'm pretty sure Boston is going to get the book thrown at them too.
And even if other teams were doing it too, like the Astros, the Red Sox, where did Alex Cora come from?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the other teams that have been accused of doing the same thing have ties to you. So you guys started it. So again, your argument is invalid at that point.
Yeah. You know what? I like how when Eric asked, like, do we have any final thoughts, and we go on another like 5 or 10 minute rampage about.
It's just so mind blowing. This situation.
I've gotten used to that by now.
Yeah.
I mean, when all of this, like when the press conference came out on Thursday, I listen. I mean, even though I'm in Tucson, I listen on the ESPN app, but I listen to Chicago radio, and like even they were like, it was like their whole morning show had turned into just this cheating scandal. Like, they didn't talk about the Bears, they didn't talk about the Bulls, they didn't talk about the White Sox. Like, 3 hours of all their stuff that they were supposed to talk about just went to the Astros. Like, and they probably still had obscene amounts of crap to say. Like,
yeah.
I imagine we could restart this episode and just take another hour and a half just talking about Houston. But
yeah, you literally could have one full episode.
Oh, I think we could like do like 4 hours straight of it, just like sheer opinions.
Just like a series.
And just as bad if you added Jerry and Keith to that.
Oh my God! Oh, that would be fantastic. Oh, we should get Vogel in on it too. I can only imagine like his tactics for how to deal with the Astros players.
I can see right now my baseball episode being turned into an Astros episode.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this one does not count. My baseball episode.
We'll be like taking over-unders on like how many times they get hit and like how many times like pitchers are just like, F it, I'm not throwing at you. I'm going to just charge you at the batter's box. Just.
I saw a tweet comment yesterday or the day before that somebody had like screenshotted like the most hit by pitches a team has ever had. And I think it was like 138 or something. And I think it was the Orioles in the 1800s, like 1868 or something.
Oh, that's going to get broke this year.
What the hell
yeah,
did they
so
do?
people were like commenting on it and was like, okay, what's the over-under for the Astros this year? Like, some people were like saying over-under 160.
Oh, yeah, completely. They are going to get lit the up.
Well,
and
go ahead.
I've never been a fan of like retaliating or purposely injuring a player, but just don't go for the head and I'll turn a cheek. I don't care if this.
Well, I've never been for injuring, but I am for retaliation and proving a point. Like that's how I was like raised. I was raised to like when I was on the mound warming up for the game, my last pitch of my warm-up routine, I would sail the ball over the backstop. Like literally just throw it as hard as I could over the backstop, and then the first batter that got in there, I would throw behind him. Like just to show that I mean business. Like that's how I was taught.
Yeah.
Old school baseball, and I hope to see that this year.
Well, I guess that's the end of our episode. Barbara, it was a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, Barbara.
Thank you for having me. I hope I can come back.
Oh, definitely.
Other
Definitely.
times.
It was fun talking Astros hate with you.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I have to add this in because it's being tweeted about right now real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
But Correa spoke out just dogging Cody Bellinger and defending his team and saying that they still deserve their title. He complained, John Heyman tweeted, Correa hits back, complains that Bellinger doesn't know what really happened. He says, of course no one other than the Astros has all the facts since they wouldn't get into the specifics, but he also reveals that Altuve was the one guy who didn't use the trash can.
Oh, God, of course.
I know that when all those graphs came out, Altuve's name was on there, so.
Oh, man.
Yep. But, Max?
Yeah?
I'll see you next episode, buddy.
Yep, see you later, man. It was a pleasure.
Hopefully Jerry and Keith can join us. Next time when we do our MLB season preview, we'll be diving into Max and Jerry's division, the AL Central.
Woo woo.
We talk Royals, Twins, Indians, White Sox, and Tigers. You can catch us on Twitter at Forever Fanatics, and we're on Facebook, Sports Fanatics United. Catch us on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, all those other good apps you can listen to the podcast. For Max and for Barbara, I'm Eric. Until next time.